Faculty Excellence, and I will be helping to facilitate the webinar this morning, or early afternoon for some of you. But our presenters are Dr. Alice Duhan-Ross and Dr. Sherry Harrison from the Richard W. Riley College of Education and Leadership. And before we get started, I want to go through some of the functions on the control panel. So if you can jump to that second slide for me, Alice. Perfect. So you should see a control panel on the right side of your screen that looks just like the one on the left side of the slide here. And sometimes that control panel can block the PowerPoint presentation a little bit. So if you click that red arrow on the screen, it'll actually expand and collapse that control panel. So go ahead and click one time for me, Alice. There it goes. So that's what it looks like when it collapses. You'll see it takes up a lot less space. And if you click for me again, Alice will bring it back. And it's just showing you that that is the red button we're referring to. One more click and it'll come back. There we go. Okay, and that second bullet, we just want to let you guys know that you can join the session using either your telephone or your mic and speakers, whatever you prefer. But you do come in on mute by default. And if you'll click one time for me, Alice, it'll just show you that mute box. Perfect. And as far as participating throughout the webinar, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can use the question box, which we'll highlight here on the screen for you. You can just click one more time, Alice. I think it'll highlight that question box for us. There you go. So you'll be able to type in there, and I will be monitoring that throughout the session today, and I'll share your questions with our presenters. The other option you have is to raise your hand, and you can just click the raise hand button, and Alice, if you'll click on the slide for me, it'll actually highlight that button. There we go. And I'll be notified when you raise your hand, and I can manually unmute you. The fourth bullet down there is the technical support number. So if you do anticipate having any difficulties during the session, you can dial in that number. And then the last bullet refers to our closed captioning. We do have a closed captioning service, and I'm going to put the link in the chat box for you right now. So if you want to see the live closed captioning feed during the session today, just click on that link there in the chat box. And now, without further ado, I will go ahead and hand things over to our presenters. Alice and Sherry.
Hi, this is Sherry Harrison. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. Alice and I both work in the College of Education and are program directors. And we are just thrilled that you joined us today. And I'll go ahead and get started, because I know you have a busy day. But our topics for today include, as Walden University gains more international students, research suggests that institutions of higher learning faculty and student support services should continually remain cognizant about international students' needs and student-teacher relationships. Today, our goal is for you to be given the opportunity to brainstorm what Walden University does, what Walden University can do, and what Walden University should do to ensure that our faculty and our staff have the knowledge and the resources that they need to support our international students. More college students are coming and going overseas for schools. Marklin reported in USA Today in 2013 that more college students than before are coming and going overseas. And now we have a poll question for you.
Oh, go back one slide, Alice. Okay, pretend you guys didn't see that, because that revealed our answer. Okay. So I'm gonna launch a poll question. There we go. Okay, you guys should see that. Hopefully, you didn't see the answer. If you did, then that's okay. It's not a big deal. But go ahead and cast your vote. Looks like we've got about 50% of our attendees that have voted, so I'll give it 10 more seconds or so before I close the polls. Give everyone a chance. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the polls now, and I'll share the results with you. So most people looks like were correct, and they chose 800,000, but we did have 14% that selected 460,000. So I'm going to hide these, and then go ahead and go to that next slide, Alice, and Sherry, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I was surprised that it was 800,000, and that was in 2013, so who knows what it is like right now. But Marklin also went on to report that the numbers of the U.S. students earning academic credit abroad are on the rise too, but at a much slower rate than students coming to the U.S. for school. And who are Walden's international students? And I'll let you look at the slide for a second and just point out some of the interesting information on the slide, as that non-U.S. citizens living in the U.S., if you look, 3.6%, and that's overall in Walden, and 1.9% in our College of Education. And next we have another poll question for you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and launch the question for you. And again, go ahead and just take a moment to cast your vote. About 50% have voted, so I'll give you guys another 10 seconds before I close up the poll. Which country has the most students studying abroad? Walden University's Richard W. Riley College of Education. All right, let's go ahead and close it and share the results with everyone. So, all right, it looks like 14% said China, 57% said Jamaica, and 29% said Mexico.
Okay, and I think we need to, I'll let you look at this slide for a second, and the answer is actually on the next slide. Is something blocking that, or is that just my computer? Can you guys see the numbers?
Yeah, I'm seeing a block there too. I wonder, Alice, maybe you can collapse your control panel, and maybe that'll help. Like that red arrow on the top. So on the right side of your screen, you should see that control panel. And then you click the red arrow, it should collapse. That might do it. It may not. There we go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yay! Okay, yes, this was the slide that showed who are Walden's international students, but for their living. But the answer to your poll question, Alice, if you'll flip the slide, we will give them their answer. Well, hold on one second. The top 3 programs. This shows you our top 3 programs. For the non-U.S. citizens, it's the Doctor of Education. Those are the ones living in the U.S. And non-U.S. citizens living abroad is our Master of Science in Education. And so what country? You need drum roll. Alice, next slide. It should be on the next one. The non-U.S. citizens living abroad in our Richard W. Riley College of Education, the most are from Jamaica. And then that was something that really surprised me. I had no idea about that one when we started looking at where the students were. And then the most non-U.S. citizens living abroad that attend our whole university, where Mexico was the number 1. Okay. Alice, if you want to go ahead and switch the slide. There you go. All right. So what needs do our international students have? They have many more than are listed on the screen, but we just wanted to point out some of the the major ones that might be noticed, like misunderstanding of due date. Perhaps they have technology difficulties, or they misunderstand words that might be common phrases, or they might have second language difficulties. So how can we as educators help our international students? When we're developing courses, or if we're giving examples in our classrooms, perhaps we need to include more diversified cases and situations. In fact, one international student shared that on the courses and assignments, they are written with a U.S. focus, so sometimes when we ask them to, okay, take this back to your classroom and apply it, in their home country, it might not be set up the way that our schools and classrooms are set up in the U.S., and so it might be difficult for them to actually do whatever that assignment is, and we just need to be flexible and understanding enough to help that student complete the assignment, but maybe they have to do it in a different way, or maybe they have to explain something in their response that makes it meet whatever the way their school system is set up. We just need to realize that it could be different. Academic conduct Turnitin issues. Several international students have shared that they were frustrated at being severely punished, or what they thought was severely punished, for inappropriate citation of others' work, because the academic rules of U.S. universities regarding citing sources might be different in the U.S. than in their home country. In fact, a student commented, I had not put the reference from where I'd taken information, and when the professor pointed it out, I said I was sorry, and I would cite sources in the future, but I lost points for my grade, and I personally felt that this was treating me a different way than I would have been treated in my home country. Other Turnitin issues, instructors need to have that broader cultural understanding of how international students were taught and how they were assessed, but also to be sure that our international students understand what is expected of them and how they should be citing sources, and perhaps give them some examples, or point them to the Writing Center. Hayes and Antora in 2005 stated that there is a need for instructors to understand this before they impose categories of judgment upon students, because many times students just don't understand why they need to cite the sources. And of course, that best practice is positive plagiarism avoidance. Just let them know ahead of time, these are the expectations, so students will understand and not feel embarrassed later when they don't cite the work of others. Just want to make sure that they understand that it is required, and it's something that's expected, and how to do it. Make sure they have the resources for that. And another best practice is to give students the course schedule and materials before the start of the course, so that if there is that language barrier, they can perhaps read through that ahead of time and be ready to ask questions when the course starts if they don't understand something that they need to do. And perhaps audio and video aids might help students better understand what the assignments are in the course. And now I am going to turn it over to Ala, who's going to talk to you about some instructional strategies.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. I'd like to continue the discussions on instructional strategies. Faculty may conduct a quick learner analysis in order to get an understanding of their students' expectations and cultural backgrounds, to become aware of possible needs of the students in the course and plan ways to best address those needs. Faculty also may provide scaffolding for various assignments. It is suggested that universities and colleges may provide new international student orientation, as well as professional development opportunities for faculty and staff, specific to the needs of international students. Feedback. According to Ciano, American-style feedback tends to be relatively direct and may offend some students. On the other hand, research shows that many U.S. faculty members avoid the language that directly points out flaws and weighs their critique in a form and wraps their critique in a form of suggestions, which some understand students take only as advice and don't realize it is something they actually need to follow. Discussions. A quantity of online discussions in courses designed in the U.S. often reflect only Western educational values that encourages eloquence, wordiness, originality, grammatical and spelling accuracy, frequency, and so on. Tips for course development. It is recommended when designing courses that you, faculty, may consider linguistic abilities of foreign language speakers and their readiness to speak up, critically reflecting on readings, and use rules of rhetoric appropriate for academic writing. In general posts that faculty provide, that you may want to beware or include, I know that there are many different international school typologies. We have provided some examples of different international school terminologies, such as the GCSC. This is a General Certificate of Secondary Education. There are exams British students take at the age of 16, the sophomore year equivalent, in different subjects to determine their academic achievements. Also, we found out that French school systems, they're reputed to handle students in a very strict and disciplined manner. And also, in Mexico, students are only required to complete 3 years of high school to earn a diploma. Best practices used here at Walden, and we are very proud to say that there are many. Enrollment advisors are available to work to help set expectations about the various programs that are provided. There you will find the website that will provide you more information. Advising works with students to outline the difference between the U.S. grading scale and the UK International Grading Scale, or whatever grading scale is unique to their country. There again, you may continue to find out more about this through the website that we have provided. More best practices used at Walden. Many instructors take time to help a student better understand the importance of citing work from other authors and how to cite work appropriately. Instructors try to avoid using phrases or acronyms that might confuse students. And we have, like I said before, some very wonderful instructors and faculty, and they do take time to help that student understand, and especially those students that identify that they may be struggling. What can leadership, faculty, and staff do? We would like to encourage you all to continue to create, interpret, and revise existing resources and policies to support the success of both our international and U.S. students. And again, we have wonderful, Walden has wonderful websites that provide more information and resources there for students and faculty. What resource does Walden have? There's the Student Support Services, Writing Center, and International Advising. There's a Student Support Team, CFE. They hold a number of webinars, and those webinars are available that you may take asynchronous as well as synchronous. There's also an International Advisory Board, and there are other resources that are here that we have provided. What other kinds of things may you do as a leader, faculty, or staff member in your program? We would like to provide you an opportunity to reflect on the following questions. Is there anything that you have learned today that surprised you regarding international students? Is there anything you may consider changing in your teaching practices or in your program to better support international students? We would like to encourage you to please continue this discussion, and you may email Sherry and I as we continue our research and efforts to inform faculty and staff of how to help and enhance international students' learning. Now I would like for us to move on to the international student scenarios. Sherry?
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and share with you scenario A. This is about Rob, who came from a country where the culture did not recognize plagiarism, and it was acceptable to use work that others have written without citing the author. So he repeatedly turns in papers to Walden with large portions copied from other authors. When his instructor confronted him, Rob cited the work, but complained he had never been asked to do this before by any other instructor. Rob says he feels like he's honoring the writer by using the work they wrote, and because of that, he doesn't feel he needs to cite the source. After trying to explain the importance of always citing work to the students, the instructor notices that Rob has copied work from his colleagues in their discussion posts and submitted some of their work as his own without citing them. And we have a couple questions we want you to think about, and we're going to ask for your responses in just a minute in the Google Drive document. But Alice, do you want to flip and let's show them the questions first before we put up the Google Drive document?
Sure.
Okay, these are the questions we're going to ask you to think about, and we're actually going to ask that you write your thoughts regarding these questions. What resources does Walden have that might have been helpful to solve these issues that were shared in the scenario? And what additional resources might Walden add that may be helpful in addressing similar scenarios in the future? Okay, and now we're going to flip to the Google Drive document and to ask for your feedback on this question.
Okay, so I am going to share the Google Drive link with you. I just put it in the chat box. It's Google Drive Scenario 1. And Alice, I can just jump to that. I'll take presenter control and just jump to that document. You don't have to worry about that. So let me take back control here. All right. So you guys should be seeing my screen, but what I want you to do is click on the link that I put in the chat box. It's going to take you to this document. All you need to do is click in the spaces that are provided and enter in your answers. So we've got the 2 questions that they just went over with you. The first one, what resources does Walden have that might have been helpful to solve the issues shared in this scenario? Just go ahead and type directly onto that document. With Google Drive, for those of you that aren't familiar, we'll be able to see in real time as everyone is typing on this document. So please go ahead and do that. And then there is that second question in the box below that says what additional resources might Walden add that may be helpful in addressing similar scenarios in the future. So go ahead and share your thoughts and ideas on here. There's really no right or wrong answer. Everyone, we're not able to see who is typing what, so it's as if you're typing anonymously here. If you do want your name to be shown on there, you can put your name in parentheses behind whatever you type in.
Well, we certainly appreciate your input because our goal is to also learn from you guys today.
I see one person typing in already. That's great. You can change your font. You can change the color. Whatever you want to do. Have fun with it.
Okay,
I've got one person.
The academic integrity course require that for all international students. There actually is a international, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it is a training that international students do receive when they enter into the program. It's not that academic integrity course, but it's my understanding that it's like a tutorial, international student tutorial, I believe, that does share some of that information, and they just launched that fairly recently.
And if it's easier for you to just type in the question box, you can certainly do that, and I can add it to the document because I know Alice and Sherry actually want to save this document just for future reference. So we had one person write in writing tutors in the question box. Judith Blakely, thank you for that.
That is awesome, and sometimes I think international students and all students just might not realize all the resources we have in the Writing Center. And maybe that's something we need to do a better job of, is somehow making sure that information is out there. I know we try to continually share that with students, but maybe we just need to think of additional ways to do that. And I see hire an international student liaison, someone that can help with international student issues that do arise. And we appreciate all these ideas. In fact, we'll share these afterwards with the university. And I know we do have dedicated international student advisors. Okay, those are some wonderful ideas.
Got another that came into the chat box that I can share. Judith, she says, encouraging students to participate in Walden writing webinars, which is great. There's tons of webinars. David says, why am I unable to type in the boxes? I'm not sure, David. You should. I set the permissions so that anyone can type in there. I'm not sure why it wouldn't work for you. But go ahead and use the question box if you're unable to type in there.
We certainly appreciate all of these ideas.
We've got another one, APA courses that I'll add here. And why APA is important.
That's a good point. Very good, because if they don't understand why they're being asked to do something, they're just, maybe they will think they don't need to do it.
Okay. So I think we got some good feedback there. So Judith, I'm going to hand it back to you so that you can go to the second scenario. Or Judith, I'm sorry, Alice. Got Judith's name in my brain.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right, you're good to go, Alice, to share your screen.
And Alice is going to share scenario B with you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Scenario B, Joan. Joan studied hard and had always earned B's until she got to her 5th course in the program, and she began making D's. When she wrote to her instructor sharing her frustration and asking how she could improve her work to earn higher than a B, her instructor told her that she had plenty of time and opportunities to improve her grade before the course was over. The instructor told Joan, "Take it easy on yourself." Joan became angry and contacted academic advising, asking to be switched to another course immediately, as her instructor did not understand her needs and thought she should take an easier course or classes. She was really frustrated. Her instructor had told her she was really frustrated that her instructor had told her to take it easier on herself. Here are the questions that we would like for you to ponder. What resources does Walden have that might have been helpful to solve the issues shared in this scenario? And what additional resources might Walden add that may be helpful in addressing similar scenarios in the future?
All right, and we're going to do the same kind of deal. We've got another Google Drive document. I just posted the link into the chat box, and I'll take over presenter control, Alice, and display that. Same kind of deal. If for whatever reason you're unable to type in that document, just put your suggestions in the question box, and I can add it to the document for you. So what resources does Walden have that might have been helpful to solve the issues shared in this scenario? And what additional resources might Walden add that may be helpful in addressing similar scenarios in the future? Any ideas?
This is a really great response that we have here. It says, get the international student advisor looped in right away. I assume that they have special training with international students. Most definitely they do. I would also like to suggest that the faculty coordinator, possibly director, also work and collaborate with the advisor. There have been instances in the past that we've actually assigned a coordinator and our faculty as a mentor who work with that particular student that was having an issue to just continue the discussions about issues that they may have in the class and work along with that instructor to kind of help them to possibly better understand what the student's concerns are. Also, another post we have is that the teacher is a resource and can help. I'm sorry, I can't see something here on the screen. And can help by discussing and covering course expectations. Wonderful. Great suggestion. Our next question, what additional resources might Walden add that may be helpful in addressing this? Requiring training for the regular faculty, like this one. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, CFE provides many, there are many webinars on this particular issue. And this is a great comment because we definitely are encouraged to continue these types of efforts. And there are many other webinars focusing on international students in the near future. So please continue to look for those schedules as they pop up. All right, great.
I'm going to hand it back to you, Alice. You can go over that third scenario. And another thing, probably most of you are aware, but I actually just got some visibility into the new SROE guide, the Student Readiness Orientation. It's optional for new students to take, but I know that enrollment advisors strongly encourage students to go through it, and they actually have a really good international section in there. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at that, you may want to.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to ask Sherry to go on with the next scenario. Thanks.
Thank you, Alice. Scenario C is about John. He's an international student. John felt he, out of respect, could not criticize any published scholar because they are the expert, and he could not criticize their work. In order to avoid criticizing a published scholar, as he was taught to do by his teachers in the country he lived in, he avoided an assignment that asked him to evaluate the quality and the validity of a study. He avoided criticizing the author by only writing a few lines. He received an F on the assignment when his instructor graded it, and the instructor told him, "Your assignment lacks in-depth criticism." And once again, we would like you to think about the same two questions for this scenario. What resources does Walden have that might have been helpful to solve this issue shared in the scenario? And what additional resources might Walden add that might be helpful in addressing similar scenarios in the future?
All right, and just like last time, I put the Google Drive link in the chat box for you. This is our last Google Drive activity, so really try and contribute if you haven't already. Again, if you can't type on the Google Drive document, just type in the question box, and I will put your comments in the Google Drive document for you.
And all the ideas everyone is sharing are awesome, and we're capturing them, and thank you so much. Oh, I love that idea. Feedback is so important, and sometimes, you know, we might need to just stop and think, well, wonder why the student did this on that way. So I really like that comment. It seems like the teacher might have inquired as to why the student did so little. Were they confused about the directions or the expectations? I think that's a great point. And I see communication listed as to what additional resources Walden might add. And communication is so important, and discussing each assignment ahead of time so that students know what is expected of them. I like that idea. And the choice of words, that is so important too, because certain words they might misunderstand to mean something else. And we all know sometimes what we type might not really be what we meant to convey, and that could only be complicated more if it's someone that English perhaps is their second language. And I see writing tutors for resources that we do have, and that is so true. And again, just making students aware that those do exist and it is a resource for them. And I see another additional resource that we might add is to train our international students to speak up. And again, that's so important that they feel comfortable that they're in a risk-free environment, and it is okay to ask their instructor a question. The instructor is not going to get mad or take it out on them if they have a question and they ask their question, and that we encourage them to do that. And providing examples, I see that as something that we might add, providing examples of what a critique might look like and what's acceptable and what's not, so that student would see, if I do 3 lines, that's not going to be acceptable, and this is what my teacher is looking for. And again, that one on speaking up, when they saw that example, perhaps the student would speak up and say, I don't understand why I'm being asked to do this, or maybe they would share that they were taught not to ever criticize a scholar. And our writing, I see the writing webinars, encouraging participation in writing webinars for our students. I think that is another excellent point. And again, just educating our students that these things exist, and that they may need to, or it may be helpful for them to take advantage of those things. And again, I think communication is so important in how we tell them these things exist. Sometimes students might get offended when we say, they're writing tutors available or writing webinars, but just doing it in that positive, we're here to help you way. The communication, that's the key, definitely. And I see another ideas being shared. Do a few practical exercises beforehand so that it helps students understand what they're going to be asked to do. And perhaps that's something we should think about too as we're developing courses, maybe including those practical exercises, I don't know, maybe in a discussion or just a short little scenario ahead of time. Those are all wonderful ideas.
All right, I'm going to give presenter control back to Alice.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Christy. Recommendations for Walden. What strategies, resources, recommendations would you suggest to leadership that Walden might consider to help our international students become even more successful? In conclusion of our webinar, we value your opinion and we really appreciate your attendance today. We would like to provide you with an opportunity to provide these recommendations by emailing or contacting Sherry and I, and we will share your responses as we compile a instructional guide for faculty and staff for working with international students. I'd like to thank Kirsty so much for the interactive component of this webinar, as well as working with Sherry and I. Sherry, would you have any other words that you'd like to say?
We appreciate everybody's great ideas, and it's just like, yay, we get to add those additional ideas to the information that we have, and we certainly welcome any other ideas you have. And it's my understanding you'll have a copy of this webinar, so you have all the links that we shared during the presentation, and then you'll have our email addresses. And I'd like to thank Christy and Alice for all you've done with this webinar. I appreciate it, and thank you everybody so much for taking time out of your day to attend.
Well, thank you, ladies, and I just want to reiterate what Sherry just said. You guys will all get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, and I did record the webinar today, so I'll provide you with the links to that if you'd like to listen to it again. Thank you for your participation. That was wonderful to see. We've got an Ernest. I saw that your hand went up a couple of times during the session, and I'd love to unmute you, but you've got to enter your PIN. So I'm sending you your audio PIN. If you enter that, then it gives me control to unmute you. Otherwise, you can always just type in your question in the question box, and I can share it that way. Let's see. I think that takes care of everything, unless anyone else has any last questions before we wrap up for today. No? Okay. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we certainly hope to see you in another CSU webinar soon.
Thanks again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.